Yeah, I would now request Mr. Anshuman Kanoria, Chairman Tea Exporters Association, to kindly deliver the specially curated session on the future of Darjeeling tea. Mr. Kanoria.
Hello again. I hope we can make this session short so that I don't hold up your lunch. Yeah. Can I request everyone to settle down so we can proceed? Thank you. So the session I've been asked to speak on is the future of Darjeeling tea. Darjeeling, for us, is an emotion. It is not a word. It is not a tea. It is an emotion that I myself have lived for more than 40 years. It flows in our blood and it flows in our heart. We who are in the field of Darjeeling tea become like racehorses with blinkers, running on our own path, oblivious to the world around us. The topic I have is a difficult one, the future of Darjeeling tea. I don't think what I'm saying is going to be very welcomed, but today, Darjeeling is a patient in an ICU, virtually on its deathbed, and to say what is the future of Darjeeling tea has no easy answers. It is the whole journey of Darjeeling. It's been a field which has been struggling for quite a while. The 2017 political strike and the compulsory lockdown imposed on the tea gardens was like a death blow to Darjeeling. It was a huge financial loss for that year, and more than that, it turned a lot of foreign buyers and brands away from Darjeeling. There was a huge loss of market and a huge opportunity for our neighbor to capture some market. Since 2017, we have faced years which have been very challenging. There have been years of severe drought. There has been a year of the COVID lockdown, again in the peak first flush period, with huge economic consequences for Darjeeling. Somehow, just due to the passion of the owners, some of whom had deeper pockets, the loss was taken and continuity was maintained. There are 87 tea gardens in Darjeeling. Let's say 17 or 70 odd can be called true tea gardens. Some of them are like out gardens without factories, etc. 87 is the number which is officially registered as a geographical indicator, GI. Out of 70 gardens, about 18 or 20 have already changed hands in the last 2 years. It would not be out of place if I say today that at least another 40, 50 gardens would be for sale today. If there were serious buyers willing to pay any kind of a decent price, practically everyone is a seller. So you will ask, why is anyone buying a Darjeeling tea garden if the situation is so bleak? It is basically non-tea people trying to create land banks due to the exorbitant prices of land in Darjeeling. This is what Darjeeling is today. What is the root of the problem? So there are back-end issues, there are front-end issues. The back-end issues are very clearly the huge disruption caused by climate change with extremes of weather, drought for 4 to 5 months in the winter months, which has always been impacting the prized first flush production of March, April. Excessive rainfall, unseasonal in April, May, which is affecting the second flush season, and acute heat from April onwards, which is also disrupting the crop. Climate change has been a serious disruptor for Darjeeling crop and quality. The second most important thing is productivity issues. The average Darjeeling garden has an absenteeism of 45 to 50%. Today, at least 50% of Darjeeling tea gardens are organic, which means you can't even use any weedicide. It is all manual weeding that is basically required. We don't have enough pluckers to pluck our tea. To find people and afford the cost of manual weeding has been extremely difficult. And if you go to a lot of gardens at this time of the year, there are sections that look like jungles. A lot of tea gardens have vast areas which are being left unplucked because there simply aren't enough people. Some gardens have employed shears and machinery to try and do machine plucking, but this has not yielded good results in the terrain of Darjeeling. So absenteeism without accountability, because there is no hire and fire, and no work, no pay is meaningless, because if my leaf has become 3 times the size and is devoid of all quality and I'm losing plucking rounds, then it doesn't help me if I don't pay the worker for not coming to work. Clearly, wage expectations are higher, and we understand and sympathize with that. But a garden has to be commercially viable in order to be able to afford that. And when we talk about the future of Darjeeling, this begs the question of discussing productivity and ensuring that productivity reform goes hand in hand with any worker agreements in the future. Darjeeling has clearly become a high-cost operation. 60% average of a garden's costing is on account of labor wages. And if productivity remains low and wages keep increasing year on year, mostly with retrospective effect every year, without any clear roadmap over a 5-year period, you cannot have an industry functioning with no idea of your cost of production today or in the years to come. As of today, I would stick my neck out and say that most Darjeeling gardens are losing to the tune of almost 200 rupees a kilo, which means each garden losing a few crores. Of course, there are exceptions, because the one peculiarity of Darjeeling is that you have gardens at different elevation, different quality profile, different yields. Unfortunately, the description of Darjeeling has been based on a geographical area and not really on a quality basis. So if you were within a certain area of the mountain, you qualify to be Darjeeling. There may be another garden almost opposite you, which is Terai. But the one opposite it, making low quality tea at a very high yield, is Darjeeling. This lacuna, I would call it, creates huge variation in quality, in costing, in profile of different Darjeeling gardens. Today, when I go to Germany and I ask them why can't we increase demand, the answer you will hear is, we buy tea at 15 euro. There are competitors getting tea from Darjeeling at 5 euro. We can explain to our customers that our tea is better, but we can never explain to them the ultimate differential in the market of 50 euro a kilo, because this is also Darjeeling, that is also Darjeeling. So this huge mismatch of quality has created challenges for Darjeeling. To complete the story a bit more, of course, is the threat faced from Nepal, which we gave a free entry in 2017 with the strike and the closure of the gardens due to political reasons. Although it was no fault of the garden owners and huge losses were taken by us, unfortunately there was no support forthcoming from the government either in that year or any subsequent year. So the fall has had to be borne just by the passion of Darjeeling planters alone. And there is a limit to how long you are capable or willing to sustain the loss. The challenge of Nepal is really quite serious, because it is infiltrating the Indian market more than even the foreign markets. Earlier, we used to talk about the passing off of Darjeeling. There used to be a story that 10 million kilos of tea is produced in Darjeeling, 40 million kilos of Darjeeling is sold worldwide. I don't think that was ever true. Today, the crop of Darjeeling has fallen to 6.5 million kilos, largely due to the factors I outlined: food safety norms, more gardens going organic. About 50% of all Darjeeling gardens are organic. Climate change, worker availability. The crop of Nepal of Darjeeling type has gone up to almost 6 million kilos. So we have a serious competitor. We don't have just a, it has become to Darjeeling what the small grower challenge is to establish plantations in Duaz and Assam. And Nepal has no plantation labor act, no labor laws. The business model is of factories largely. There are only 2 or 3 really larger gardens. But factories buying leaf from the farmers. So whatever the market price is, they pay that leaf price to the farmer. Competing with them is impossible. We have been requesting government to help us nullify this challenge from Nepal. But the friendship treaty and the political challenges with China lurking behind Nepal are well known and clearly outlined to us. So there is no willingness to impose any countervailing import duty on Nepalese tea or to curtail the free flow of Nepal tea into India. Where lies the solutions? Where lies the future? Can Darjeeling survive? Can this patient be taken out of ICU? It's a tall order because things have become rather serious. As I said earlier, I'm the last person who asks for government subsidy or support because I think most of it is often misused as low-hanging fruits by a small section of people for short-term gain rather than any long-term development. So today, if you really want Darjeeling to come out of ICU, one strong injection by the government is required just to have that ICU drip taken off Darjeeling. If government support is not forthcoming by way of some subsidy to nullify the disadvantages caused, then I am sorry, but Darjeeling is not going to survive. All the people who are buying these gardens are converting it into land banks. Everyone is thinking tourism. 2 months ago, the largest importer of Darjeeling in the world, a German entrepreneur, was in Calcutta. And he convened a small meeting with 4 or 5 of us producers who have been his traditional suppliers for 20, 30 years. He has a deep commitment to Darjeeling. He opened the session by saying that in the early 1900s or the late 1800s, Switzerland used to be a farming community and a very poor country. And Switzerland decided that they needed to become a tourism country with agriculture as a backdrop. And that is how they prospered and survived. And maybe Darjeeling needs to concentrate less on the tea and more on tourism. I was the first one who immediately objected. And I said, Professor, I am in this for the passion of tea. If I want to be in tourism, I have other avenues. So if you want to help save Darjeeling tea, talk about tea with me. This whole concept of let us build a tourism resort or something else on a Darjeeling plantation to break even is something I don't endorse. You can do that to supplement your income. But if your tea operation is not viable, if Darjeeling tea on its own cannot break even, if that does not have a future, then it is futile to talk about Darjeeling tea. Because the crop that has come down to 6.5 million today, as these estates pass more and more into novice hands, it will come down to 3 or 4 million. There are various estates today which are closed. The workers are plucking some leaf and selling it here or there. Other gardens are buying it. Today you might be buying very famous brand names of gardens you love. You're not sure what you are getting, whether it's actually leaf from that garden or whether they have bought leaf from some other garden, because that traceability is not being enforced by any agency, nor the tea board. There is no rule in this regard. So, one-time cash injection. Ultimately, it is about demand creation. If you want Darjeeling to survive, the root of the problem with Darjeeling is an oversupply of common and medium tea. The true Darjeeling, what has a distinctive flavor and which can be considered the very best of the best, is hardly 2% of your production. You will read in the media, Darjeeling tea sells at 1 lakh rupees a kilo. How much? 10 kilos. Was it even a genuine sale or a marketing gimmick? We don't know. So these are misleading reports which create a wrong image of the health of the Darjeeling tea industry. At least 70% of an average tea garden's production sells way below the cost of production. The 40-45% small grades, broken fannings, tea bag cut that a garden produces is in average selling at 20 to 25% of cost of production. So you can imagine what is the price at which you need to sell your primary teas just to be able to break even. It is a huge challenge. So demand creation, where are you going to create demand? The entire Western markets have now introduced hydrocarbons, metals, nicotine, you name it. They have classified everything as pesticides. And most of these are pollutants, whether you talk about ethylene oxide or anthraquinone or whatever. It's something we have no control over. The labs have hugely differing results between the Indian lab and the EU lab. The same sample in the same EU lab can have two different results with 200% variance. So the sanctity of this whole process of lab testing and food safety has gone out of control. And it has hampered our growth in the Western markets as well as to an extent in Japan. The Western markets, Japan, US, are fairly stagnant. The Middle East, apart from Iran in the earlier days, has never been a fan of Darjeeling tea. Where lies our hope for demand creation? For me, there are two markets. There are only two markets that can bail out Darjeeling. One is our very own India, and the other is the giant, China. The highest price for tea today in the world is paid by Chinese consumer for Chinese tea. That is a consumer that understands quality. And in all my visits to China, in all my interactions in trade fairs with consumers, with marketing gurus, I have found that Darjeeling has acceptance. What is lacking is awareness, education. What we need to do as a country is hold more road shows, more consumer awareness tasting sessions in special sites of China where you are going directly to consumers, creating e-commerce channels so that the tea that you are making them taste is available for them to buy. We need market access programs so that a market such as China, and mind you, I firmly believe that proper education, awareness, market access in a country like China, this one market can buy the entire production of Darjeeling. Just this one market. What is lacking? Who is going to do it? The Darjeeling producers are already bleeding. There is no way. I mean, at an individual level, we all do what we can. But what we need here is education. It's a lot more than what one or two companies can do. Here again, this is something where we need government support. Government intervention is also required at a legislative level to deal with this Nepal problem. We understand that they are not going to come with duties and they are not going to come with any ban. So what do? What have we suggested? We have suggested a 2 or 3 point program to supplement any one-time subsidies that are given to Darjeeling. And that is imposition of a minimum import price. You take the lowest cost of production of any garden in Darjeeling and you impose that as an MIP to ensure that there is no dumping of cheap teas into the Indian market. Today, our broken fanning price is being subdued because this is the tea which is really loved in Eastern India and there is a huge demand for it. But the free flow of Nepalese tea at low prices is diluting the market for the Darjeelings in Eastern India. So imposition of a MIP at a realistic level, regulating that all teas coming in from Nepal be sold through a dedicated tea board auction center in Siliguri or wherever, so that we are able to track the tea and ensure that the food safety compliance of the tea is in line with FSSAI standard and that the MIP is being adhered to without any special arrangements can be tracked. So dealing with this Nepal problem, we have made representations to the government. We are hoping for some action. This whole question about how to make a consumer differentiate between quality Darjeeling. Today, certificate agencies like Rainforest, like Fair Trade, these have already become more and more important in the business world because a lot of customers trust these logos and certifications as a benchmark of quality. They don't know who else to trust. As it is, when we talk about Darjeeling, let's remember one thing. Who made Darjeeling what it is? Was it the Darjeeling producer? Was it a segment of exporters? Was it the government of India? No. It was actually the German importers. They found a business opportunity in it. They made Darjeeling popular in the world. And then came our GI. And what did we, masters of self-destruction, do? We went to Germany and said, you guys are thieves. Now we have GI. We are going to catch you. We made sure that we sent the Germans scuttling into the lap of Nepal as fast as they could. And now we are wondering where the market has gone. So a lot of responsibility for the mess that we are in is our own doing. And this is something we have to repair. You have logos. We are very proud of our logos, GI logo, Assam logo. Tell me, why should any consumer use our logo? Logo comes with responsibilities, licensing, returns. Are we promoting the logo? Are we adding any value to the logo? You are carrying the logo, what is your benefit? So it is time we put some marketing effort. Look at the example of the Colombian coffee. Colombian government spent hundreds of millions of dollars in promoting it. Logos are great, provided you empower it, provided you put value on it. Darjeeling people understand, but not globally. The name is recognized. Some people think it is grown in Sri Lanka. That is how poorly we have marketed it. So a marketing effort is more required. By way of brainstorming, we have also suggested that maybe the logo should be in 3 colors. One being a standard green, one maybe a navy blue plus, and one a gold double plus. And the basis of who gets which logo depends on your export price, because 3 tasters will never agree on the quality of a Darjeeling. That is the beauty of Darjeeling, that it means different things to different people. The definition of quality is perceived differently by different consumers. So that is the beauty of Darjeeling. So to answer the question, what is the future of Darjeeling? Number 1, bleak. Number 2, not impossible. You need the government intervention. You need the cash injection. You need the market access. You need the regulation on Nepal. And most of all, you need the recommitment of Darjeeling planters to produce the best quality you can. Crop be damned, we need to go for quality. We need a wage roadmap, and more than anything, we need urgent government hand-holding to give us hope. Because at the moment, the mood is so sullen that everything is for sale. And that mood has to change. All the producers need to believe that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And that is going to come, I'm sorry to say, only from government right now. The pie is so small, the pie of buyers, that too much cooperation between producers is a pipe dream, because everyone is fighting over the same small pie. So there is mistrust. Who's going to partner and try to find solutions together? People do. But it's difficult because the market pie is so small. We need to enlarge the pie, enlarge demand. That is the long-term solution. The short-term is government intervention. So enjoy Darjeeling tea. Make sure all your friends drink more Darjeeling tea. Make sure you all drink at least 4 cups a day. There is hope from the Indian market. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kanoria, for a most enlightening session on the Darjeeling tea.